Unaware the wife he ignored was about to close a $60 billion contract, billionaire husband left his wife and sick child. For his mistress, what she did next shocked him. He didn't just walk out. He stood at the foot of a hospital bed, looked at his son struggling to breathe, then turned his back on both of them. The smell of antiseptic filled the room as Anna Morgan held their weak 8-year-old boy, Liam, in her arms. Her husband, Mark, billionaire investor, perfectly dressed, perfectly cold, adjusted his cufflinks and said, "I can't do this anymore. You're draining me, Anna." The words hit harder than any storm. Anna's hands shook as she tried to keep Liam calm. The machines beeped softly around them. Mark grabbed the small overnight suitcase she had packed so he could stay by Liam's side, walked to the door, and left without touching his son's hand. On the other side of that door, his world was already waiting. A luxury penthouse, a new life, and a mistress who whispered that he deserved better. He thought he was trading a tired wife and a sick child for excitement and freedom. He thought Anna would stay stuck, buried under hospital bills and quiet tears. He thought she would beg. What he never knew was this: the woman he ignored in that hospital room was days away from closing a $60 billion contract. While he texted his mistress from hotel rooms and secret dinners, Anna was the one foreign investors called. While he complained she was too busy, she was the mind behind a deal that would shake the entire financial world and rewrite both of their futures. What she did next wouldn't just change her life, it would shatter everything he thought he controlled. On the same week he moved in with his mistress, Anna would sit at the head of a massive conference table, cameras flashing, and sign a contract that turned her into the kind of power he never believed she could be. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you leave without subscribing, it's like letting Anna's voice be ignored again. When you subscribe, you stand with every woman who was underestimated, every child left behind, and every quiet heart that chose to rise instead of break. Please subscribe now, and in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. The alarm did not even finish ringing before Anna Morgan's eyes shot open. It wasn't the sound that woke her. It was the sharp, painful cough coming from the small bedroom across the hall. In one fluid motion, she rushed toward the cough, her bare feet hitting the cold floor with urgency. She did not hesitate, did not stop, did not think of herself. Her whole world lived in that room. Anna, 36 years old, mother of one, and one of the brightest negotiators in her field, pushed open her son's door. The early morning light slid in through the half-closed blinds, striping the room with pale gold. Liam, her 8-year-old boy, lay curled up, breathing hard, sweat clinging to his forehead. She crossed the room quickly. "Liam," she whispered, voice steady but soft. "It's okay. Mommy's here." This was who Anna was: steady, focused, selfless, the kind of woman who remembered every doctor's instruction, every medication schedule, every hopeful sign. She kept track of Liam's needs with the precision of someone who had already given up sleep, comfort, and half her life just to keep him safe. She did all of it without complaint. On the nightstand beside his bed, her laptop sat open, its screen still glowing from work she had been doing before finally closing her eyes for an hour. Rows of financial models filled the display. At the top of the spreadsheet, a small label read, "Projected valuation, $60,000 billion. Confidential draft." She looked at the number for a second and whispered, almost to herself, "If this works, it could change everything for us." Numbers, forecasts, negotiation notes. This was her other reality. By day and too often by night, Anna worked as a lead negotiator for a global investment firm, the same one that had once offered her a senior role before she put her dreams on hold to support her husband's first company. She balanced motherhood and high-stakes finance with a quiet fearlessness most people never saw. It wasn't inherited wealth or luck that brought her here. Anna came from almost nothing. A brief flash of memory crossed her mind, years ago in a small rented office with peeling paint. She remembered sitting nervously across from her mentor, a sharp-eyed woman named Grace, who once told her, "Anna, you have a gift for seeing value where others don't. Don't let anyone dim that." That sentence lived inside her. It shaped her, strengthened her, guided her. The office she eventually built, the small savings she grew, the respect she earned, none of it came easy. Anna learned how to survive on grit, brick by brick, night after night, while Mark worked on his own rise and slept soundly through hers. She measured Liam's morning medicine, checked the dosage twice, and placed the spoon carefully against his lips. He swallowed weakly. Only when his breathing eased a little did she let out the breath she was holding. She brushed a hand through his hair. "I'll be right outside, okay? Call me if you feel worse." Liam nodded faintly. Anna stepped into the hallway, the weight of two different worlds pressing on her shoulders. The fragile world in Liam's bedroom, and the ruthless financial world waiting on her laptop. Her husband, Mark Morgan, 39 years old, tall, charming, and now a billionaire investor after taking his firm public, walked into the hallway at that moment. He smelled of expensive cologne. His suit was sharp. His watch alone could pay half of Liam's hospital bills if it came to that. He didn't glance into Liam's room. He headed straight for the mirror near the front door instead, adjusting his tie with the polished confidence that made strangers admire him at first sight. Behind closed doors, his attention was almost always somewhere else. Anywhere else. He walked right past Anna's framed certificate on the wall. Strategic Negotiator of the Year. She had earned it before she turned down a major promotion to keep their home steady while his company burned cash in the early years. Mark passed the frame like it didn't exist. He did that every day. "You look tired," he said casually, still not looking at her. "Maybe you're working too much again." Anna swallowed her irritation. "Liam had a rough night. I tried to talk to you about it yesterday, and also about the deal I'm leading." "Anna," he cut in, reaching for his watch. "We'll talk later. I'm running late. I've got investors flying in and a lunch meeting." It was always later. He grabbed his briefcase, brushing off her attempt at a real conversation. This had become their pattern. Her trying, him avoiding, her carrying the load, him drifting farther away, while telling himself work came first. As he stepped toward the door, something caught her eye. A faint smear, pink, glossy, on the collar of his crisp white shirt. Lipstick. Anna froze. Not visibly, not loudly, but something in her heart shifted. Like a warning she wished she could ignore. She said nothing. Her face stayed calm. Her hands stayed still. But her eyes followed the stain as Mark slipped past her and opened the door. "I'll be home late," he said, already halfway outside. "Of course you will," she whispered, but only after the door clicked shut. Her heart pounded, not because she wanted to start a fight, but because deep down she knew this was not an accident, not a misunderstanding. Something deeper, something dangerous was growing beneath the surface of their marriage, and the lipstick was only the beginning. As she turned back toward Liam's room, her phone buzzed on the console table. An unknown number flashed on the screen. One short message appeared. "We need to talk." She didn't know it yet, but that message was tied to the same secret number that had been calling Mark for days, and it would pull her deeper into the truth he was trying to hide. The sound of clinking glasses hit Anna before she even stepped through the restaurant doorway. It wasn't the gentle kind of celebration sound. It was loud, sharp, careless, the kind that made her chest tighten because she already suspected what she might find. And she was right. There, at a long, polished table near the center of the upscale dining hall, sat her husband, Mark Morgan. 39, immaculate suit, confident smile. Every inch the powerful businessman he wanted the world to see. He leaned toward two other wealthy investors, laughing at something one of them said. His phone rested low in his hand, half under the table. He wasn't looking at the men. He wasn't really listening either. He was texting, fast, secretly. Anna stood near the entrance for a moment, unnoticed, a quiet observer in a room full of loud, important people. She hadn't followed him. She knew his schedule because she had helped his assistant finalize it the night before, after putting Liam to bed. When he forgot an important file he needed for his upcoming pitch, she couldn't reach him on the phone. So she checked the calendar, saw the lunch location, and brought the document herself. Her husband didn't notice her at first. He only looked up when a server stepped closer and asked, "Sir, is this your wife?" Mark's head jerked up. Surprise washed over his face. Not warmth, not pride. "Anna," he said, "what are you doing here?" She held out the file. "You forgot this on the counter. You said you needed it for the investor deck." He took it quickly, too quickly. His fingers brushed hers, but there was no gratitude in his eyes, only irritation at being interrupted. Anna stepped back, watching how he hid his phone under his napkin. She noticed the name of the contact flashing for a second before the screen dimmed. Private number. He pressed decline. On Anna's own phone screen, a small preview of a new voicemail appeared at the top. Anna, we need your input before we finalize the $60 billion proposal outline. It was from her manager at the investment firm. For a brief second, the room, the noise, the smell of expensive food, all of it blurred as the words sank in. This was the deal, the one she had been modeling for months, the one she had tried to tell Mark about the night before. Her thumb hovered over the voicemail notification, but before she could listen, Mark shifted in his seat like he wanted the subject to disappear. Your phone keeps buzzing, she said quietly. It's nothing, Mark replied, already glancing at his own screen again. Work stuff. Anna glanced at the investors. They looked relaxed, entertained. No one seemed bothered by his distraction, but something in his voice felt tight. He cleared his throat. You should go back home. Liam needs you. There it was again, the gentle push, the subtle dismissal he used whenever she tried to step into his world instead of only supporting it from the shadows. Anna nodded, but her eyes narrowed slightly. Mark, I wanted to talk to you tonight. I have something important happening at work. A big opportunity. He cut her off. Anna, we'll talk later. I'm in the middle of something. The words landed heavy inside her. He didn't ask what the opportunity was. He didn't even pretend to care. She tried again, keeping her voice steady. It's important. It could change a lot for us. For Liam. Mark sighed impatiently. Please, not now. Just not now. He turned away from her and back to the men at the table. His body language told her everything. She didn't belong here. Not in his meetings, not in his victories, not in the version of himself he performed in front of others. And then it happened. His phone lit up once more. Mark glanced at the screen, but it wasn't the name that caught Anna's attention. It was the way his face reacted. He flinched. For a brief second, panic crossed his features. His thumb hit decline again. Then he flipped the phone face down on the table, hiding the screen completely. Anna's breath stalled. Why hide it so quickly? He leaned slightly to the side, turning his back to her. His voice dropped to a whisper almost too soft to hear. Not now, she's here. Anna heard every word. She. Who was she? The investors didn't notice. But his tone wasn't the tone of a man talking about his wife. It was the tone of someone protecting a secret. Her elbows stiffened at her sides. Her shoulders straightened. She didn't raise her voice or demand answers. She simply watched how his hand hovered over the phone, restless, like he was counting the seconds until she left so he could message whoever was on the other side of private number. A memory tugged at her. Their honeymoon, a sunny beach, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her as he said, Anna, I'll always protect this family. No matter where life takes us, I'm yours, and you're mine. That Mark felt like a stranger now. She stepped away from the table without another word. She didn't trust her voice to come out steady if she stayed. As the elevator doors closed in front of her, she placed a hand against the cool metal and took a slow breath, fighting to hold herself together long enough to get home to Liam. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't her manager. It was a text from the same private number that had just been calling Mark. 3 words. We need to talk. Anna stared at the number, unaware that the truth behind it, and the person using it, would pull her into a level of betrayal far worse than she imagined. The night hit like a storm, fast, brutal, and without warning. Anna Morgan shot upright in bed, heart hammering, to the sound of her son gasping for air. Liam's coughing wasn't normal. It was sharp, painful, and desperate. She bolted from her room and rushed into his, flicking on a soft lamp. Liam lay curled on his side, clutching his chest, each breath sounding like it scraped his lungs. Mom, it hurts, he whispered. Anna didn't hesitate. She slid her arms under him and held him close, one hand rubbing his back in slow circles. It's okay, baby, she murmured, though fear clawed at her. I'm here. Mommy's here. She grabbed her phone with her free hand and called the pediatric clinic's emergency line. Her voice stayed calm as she described his symptoms. Short, fast breaths, tight chest, fever. The nurse on the line recognized Anna's number by now. "You've done everything right so far. Keep monitoring his breathing. If it gets any worse, bring him in immediately." "Thank you," Anna said quietly, even though the reassurance did little to ease the knot in her stomach. She hung up and laid Liam gently back on his pillows. She wiped his forehead with a cool cloth and watched his chest rise and fall, counting each breath. Only when his coughing softened into weak sighs did she reach for her laptop. Life didn't pause, not even for a sick child. Her email inbox was full. Meeting requests, updated models, questions from the foreign investor team about tomorrow's briefing. Her company needed her ready. The world on that screen expected her to think clearly, even when her world at home was shaking. A voicemail icon blinked. She put one earbud in and pressed play. "Anna, it's Laura," her manager said, voice warm but urgent. "I hope everything is okay with Liam. We need you sharp for negotiations next week. This could be monumental. Call me first thing in the morning." In the background, a softer voice, Laura's assistant, could be heard saying, "They're already calling it the $60 billion deal." The phrase slipped through the speaker like a whisper and landed heavy in Anna's chest. This was the deal. The same opportunity she had tried to mention to Mark at the restaurant, the one he brushed aside. Anna's jaw tightened. She closed her eyes and, for a moment, drifted back years. Before Liam, before Mark became the rising star, before their marriage felt like a business negotiation she was losing. She had sat in a bright conference room, hands clasped, heart racing. A hiring partner from a major firm had just told her, "We'd like to bring you in as a senior lead. This track could put you on the partner path in a few years." It had been her dream. That same evening, Mark had come home with his own big news. An investor wanted to fund his new company. "Anna," he said, taking her hands, "I can't do this alone. I need you. We need this. If you stay in that job, who's going to keep us stable while I build?" She had loved him, so she gave up the offer. For him, for them. She became the steady paycheck, the emotional support, the quiet planner. She didn't complain. She genuinely believed they were building the dream together. Back in the present, Anna opened her eyes and looked at Liam. "Mommy's not going anywhere," she whispered, more to herself than to him. She checked her messages. Still nothing from Mark. Her mind replayed the details. The lipstick on his collar, the secret texts, the whispered, "Not now. She's here." The private number that had called him, then messaged her. Her chest tightened. She texted him anyway. "Liam's not well. Call me." Minutes passed. Nothing. She adjusted Liam's blanket and refilled his water glass, checking his temperature again. She sat by his bedside, one hand on his arm, the other gripping her phone. Finally it buzzed. Her heart leapt, then fell. A message from Mark. "I'll be home late. No question about Liam. No panic. No, is he okay?" Anna stared at the screen, disbelief mixing with something sharper, an emotion she didn't name yet. She typed quickly, "Did you see my message about Liam? He's really sick." She watched the typing bubbles appear, disappear, appear again, then vanish completely. Nothing. The hurt was no longer surprising. It was just heavier than yesterday. She walked quietly to the living room, leaving Liam's door slightly open so she could still hear him. She stood by the window, city lights flickering in the distance like a world that didn't care. "How did we get here?" she whispered. Her phone buzzed again. A picture message. From an unknown number. Anna opened it. Her husband, laughing, leaning in close to a woman with long dark hair, his arm around her waist, a wine glass in his hand. The angle of the shot made it clear. They were in a hotel bar, not a business meeting. The sender ID matched the same anonymous number that had texted her earlier. Private number. Her world cracked a little more. She didn't know it yet, but the woman in that picture wasn't just going to destroy her marriage. She was about to drag Mark's entire empire into the fire with him. Anna pushed through the tall glass doors of Mark's office building so quickly that the security guard barely had time to greet her. She clutched a thick envelope against her chest. Liam's latest test results and a note from the specialist. She wasn't here to scream or accuse. She just wanted Mark to see them, to understand how serious their son's condition was before things got worse. She had arranged for their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Harris, to sit with Liam for an hour. She had left strict instructions, numbers taped by the phone, medicine pre-measured, every step calculated, every risk minimized. But the moment Anna stepped into the lobby, something else hit her. The air smelled different, stronger, sharper. A sweet, floral perfume floated in the space. Not hers, not anything she owned, and definitely not something Mark would wear. Her heartbeat tapped faster. She moved toward the elevator, the envelope trembling slightly in her hands. By the time the doors opened on the 10th floor, Mark's private floor, the scent was even stronger. The doors slid back to reveal a small reception area. Behind the desk sat Jenny Moore, a warm woman in her mid-40s who had worked with Mark for years. Jenny had seen Anna bring lunch during late nights, had watched her sit in the lobby with sleeping baby Liam when Mark was too busy to come downstairs. Jenny knew more history than most. She stood the moment she saw Anna. "Anna. Hi, is everything okay?" "Just dropping something for Mark," Anna said, her voice calm but thin. "It's about Liam." Jenny's expression softened with worry. Her eyes flicked toward Mark's closed office door, then back at Anna. "He's not in right now." Anna swallowed. "Out for a meeting?" Jenny hesitated. "He's been out a lot lately." She lowered her voice. "Not always with clients." Anna's fingers tightened around the envelope. "Do you know who he's with?" Jenny looked torn. She wasn't a gossip, but she cared about Anna. "A woman," she said quietly. "Younger, dark hair, same perfume you're smelling now. They usually leave together when the floor gets quiet." There it was. Not suspicion, not guessing. Confirmation. "You deserve to know," Jenny added softly. "You've always been the one holding things together." Anna nodded. She forced a small, grateful smile, though her stomach twisted. "Thank you for telling me." Jenny reached across the desk and gently squeezed her hand. "You deserve better than secrets." Anna didn't trust herself to answer. Instead, she walked toward Mark's office door and pushed it open. The perfume smell hit her instantly. Heavy. Recent. The room itself was neat. Mark was always careful about appearances, but the atmosphere felt wrong. Too lived in for business. Too intimate for a workplace. A jacket, definitely not Mark's, hung over the back of his visitor chair. A lipstick-stained napkin sat balled up in the trash. On the corner of his desk, a wine glass rested beside a half-empty bottle. It looked like a private lounge after hours, not a CEO's office. Her mind shifted into survival mode. Collect, process, breathe. She carefully placed the envelope on the center of his desk and straightened it, lining it up with the edge. The name on the label, Liam Morgan, Pulmonary Function Results, stared back at her. It felt symbolic, a mother begging the father of her child to show up. But he wasn't here, not for her, not for Liam. She took one last look at the room, at the glass, the napkin, the jacket, and stepped out, thanking Jenny on her way to the elevator. As the elevator descended, she pressed a hand against her chest. Not to calm herself, just to remind herself that her heart was still beating. She drove home on autopilot, eyes fixed on the road, thoughts racing, perfume, the photo, the secret number, the missed calls, the distance, everything lined up now. When she walked into the house, she set her keys down quietly. No slammed doors, no dramatic gestures. Noise would make the truth feel more real, and she needed a few more seconds of pretending it wasn't. Then she saw it. Mark's navy blue blazer tossed over the arm of the couch. It hadn't been there that morning. Her stomach sank. She stepped closer and slipped her hand into the inside pocket, the way she had done hundreds of times when he left receipts or pens behind. Her fingers closed around something stiff, a hotel access card, with bold numbers printed on the front. Room 804, Anna stared at it as if it might burn her fingers. Her pulse hammered, her breath caught, her vision sharpened. She wasn't imagining things. She wasn't overreacting. She wasn't paranoid. The truth was right here in her hand, and it was worse than she had ever wanted to believe. As she stood frozen in the living room, her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with Mark's name. He was calling. The timing, she was about to find out, would reveal everything. The moment Anna stepped through Liam's bedroom door that night, she knew things had gone from bad to terrifying. He wasn't just coughing anymore. He was burning up. His skin was so hot she flinched when she touched his forehead. His breathing came in short, sharp bursts, each one weaker than the last. "Mom," Liam whispered, voice cracking. "It hurts." Anna's chest squeezed. "I'm here," she said, lifting him gently into her arms. His body trembled against her. "I've got you. I won't leave you." The house felt too quiet, too empty, the kind of silence that made fear echo louder. She grabbed her phone and dialed Mark. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. She forced her voice steady. "Mark, please call back. It's Liam. He's getting worse. I think I need to take him in." She hung up and set the phone beside the bed. She soaked a cloth in cool water and placed it across Liam's forehead, whispering comfort between his shaky breaths. Minutes crawled by. No call. She tried again. Ring, ring, ring. Still nothing. Her hands shook slightly. These were the same hands that had helped steady Mark in his early business failures, that had carried the family through long nights, that now held their son while Mark didn't even pick up the phone. Her screen lit up. A text from Mark. "Can't talk. Busy. Busy." Anna stared at the word until it blurred. Her son was struggling to breathe. His son, their son. She typed back quickly, "It's an emergency. Liam is really sick. Call me now." She watched the screen. Seconds passed, then a full minute, then 2. Nothing. Her anxiety spiked. She dialed him again. This time he answered, but his voice came through low and sharp, like her call was a problem to solve, not a cry for help. "Anna, stop calling. I told you I'm busy." Noise bled through the line behind him. Soft music, clinking glasses, laughter. A woman's voice, muffled but light. Anna's stomach twisted. "Mark," she said, fighting to keep her voice calm, "I'm not calling to bother you. Liam can't breathe well. He needs you." There was a pause, a long one. When he spoke again, his voice was flat. "I can't deal with this right now." The words sliced her open, and then she heard it, the familiar mocking laugh of a woman behind him, the mistress. "She's still calling?" The woman's voice floated through, amused. Anna felt her knees weaken. "Mark," she tried again. "Please. Your son." "I said stop," he snapped. His tone dropped so the woman wouldn't hear the rest. "I told you, I'm busy. Handle it." The line went dead. Anna stared at the phone, her hands suddenly cold. Busy. Her mind flashed back without her permission. Mark in a hospital room years ago, holding newborn Liam, eyes full of tears. "I'll never abandon you two," he'd said. "Never." The memory hurt now. She blinked hard, forcing herself back to the present. There was no time to cry, no time to ask why. Liam needed her. She leaned over him again. "Baby, stay with me, okay? Mommy's here." But his breathing grew more shallow. His eyelids fluttered. Then suddenly, his body went limp. "Liam!" Anna cried, panic tearing through her as she gently shook him. "Liam, open your eyes. Please." He didn't respond. Her heart felt like it stopped. She scooped him up, wrapped him in a blanket, grabbed her keys and ran. There was no thinking now, only instinct. She buckled him into the back seat, hands clumsy with fear, then sped toward the emergency clinic, every red light feeling like a personal attack. "Hold on," she whispered through tears as she drove. "Please hold on. Please." Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat. She glanced at it for half a second. A picture. From Mark. He hadn't replied to her messages about Liam, but he had sent a photo. Mark and the mistress, smiling, her head on his shoulder, a wine glass in his hand. The timestamp on the image hit her like a punch. It matched the time she had first called him in panic. Her chest tightened so hard she almost missed her turn into the emergency entrance. She slammed the brakes, jumped out, and pulled Liam from the car, his body limp against her chest. "Help!" she screamed as she burst through the clinic doors. "Please, my son. He's not breathing right." Nurses and doctors rushed forward. Someone took Liam from her arms. The room blurred into movement. Voices, instructions, machines. Anna stood frozen, hands shaking violently. Her lungs struggling to remember how to work. The last thing she saw before the doors swung shut behind the medical team was Liam's small hand slipping away from hers. And in the middle of that cold, white hallway, with no husband by her side and no guarantee her son would be okay, something inside her cracked so deeply it would never return to what it was. The hospital room door swung open so hard it slammed against the wall. Anna jerked awake in the uncomfortable plastic chair, heart pounding. She had slept in short, broken minutes, curled beside Liam's bed. Morning light slipped through the blinds in thin streaks, soft and pale, but the echo of the door ripped through the fragile calm. Mark stood there. Not like a father who had spent the night worrying. Not like a man who had driven too fast to see if his son was okay. He stood like someone who had arrived late to an appointment he resented. His jaw was tense, his hair perfectly styled, his suit crisp, his watch gleamed. He looked like he had slept well. Anna blinked, disoriented for half a second. Then reality snapped back. The night, the collapse, the doctors rushing Liam away, the hours of fear. Mark didn't ask a single question. He didn't step toward Liam's bed. He just said one sentence. "I came to get my things." Her breath caught. "Your things." Her voice was hoarse from crying. Mark walked in, shoulders stiff, eyes cold. His gaze swept over the room and finally landed on Liam, who lay sleeping under soft hospital light, an IV in his small arm. There should have been panic in Mark's eyes. Guilt, relief. There was nothing. "Mark," Anna whispered, standing slowly. Liam collapsed. He couldn't breathe. "They said if I'd waited any longer—" "I know," he interrupted, shrugging like she was repeating a minor inconvenience. "You called. A lot." "A lot?" Anna stared at him. "You ignored every call. You sent a picture with her while he—" He looked away sharply. "I told you I was busy." Busy, the word felt like a slap. "Anna, you're always overwhelmed," he went on. "Always dramatic, always making me feel like the bad guy." Her mouth fell open. "You're the one who didn't show up," she said quietly. "You're the one who left me alone." He waved a dismissive hand. "We're not doing this here. Not in front of everyone. I just came to pick up my suitcase." He walked over to the small closet, the one she had neatly filled last night when she thought he might come from the office and stay. He pulled out the suitcase with practiced detachment. "Mark," she said, her voice tighter now. "Where were you?" "Out," he replied flatly. "I needed space." "With her?" Anna asked. He didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. "You've been so focused on your career lately," he said instead, turning the accusation around. "I barely recognize you. You used to be supportive." Her mind flashed to every sacrifice. The job she turned down, the late nights with Liam while he traveled, the way she rebuilt her own career in the margins of his. "My career?" she repeated. "I gave up my dream job so you could build yours. I covered our bills while your first company bled money. I did everything you asked." Mark slid a stack of shirts into the suitcase. "That was years ago," he said. "Things change." A memory cut through her. Young Mark standing in his parents' kitchen, his father leaning in with a low, hard voice. "Never tie yourself to anything that slows you down. Business first, always." It made sense now. It wasn't that Mark suddenly became cruel. He had grown into a belief he'd been handed, and somewhere along the way, his own family became something that slowed him down. Anna swallowed. "So what is this?" she asked. "You get a mistress, ignore your son almost dying, and now you're—" "What? Moving out?" He zipped the suitcase. The sound was loud in the small room. "I need a different environment," he said, not looking at her. "A fresh start. She understands me. You don't. Not anymore." He walked to the foot of Liam's bed and stood there. For a second, Anna thought he might touch his son. She watched his hand, waiting for it to move. It didn't. He looked at Liam, weak, small, healing, and then at Anna, worn out and hollow. "I can't do this anymore," Mark said quietly. "You're draining me, Anna." The words hit her like a physical blow. They were the final cut in 1,000 small ones. He turned toward the door, suitcase in hand. "I'll come by the house later for the rest of my thing," he added. Anna's legs trembled. She dropped back into the chair. Her body felt heavy, her heart strangely quiet. like it hadn't decided whether to break or turn to stone. A nurse stepped in moments later, startled to see Mark leaving and Anna pale. "Ma'am," the nurse asked gently, "are you okay?" Anna nodded weakly, eyes fixed on Liam. "It's just us now," she whispered. She didn't know yet that this numbness, this hollow space inside her, was about to be filled with something stronger than she had ever felt. Something that wouldn't just keep her standing, it would lift her. The house was silent, not peaceful, sharpened, like a blade waiting to be chosen. Anna sat at the edge of the living room couch, a small lamp casting a soft pool of light over the chaos on the coffee table. Medical bills, insurance forms, Liam's prescription chart, copies of Mark's recent transactions, and printed screenshots of messages he thought she would never see. Her heart pounded too fast, torn between collapse and fight. On the opposite couch, Liam lay asleep, wrapped in a blanket, his breathing finally steady. The doctors had discharged him earlier under strict instructions: regular medication, monitoring, and an immediate follow-up. She kept him close tonight, closer than ever. Every time her eyes drifted to his small face, her fear and her purpose hardened together. "He deserves better than this," she whispered. The numbness from the hospital slowly gave way to heavy reflection. When had her life become this? When had the man she trusted turned into someone who could walk out on his child in a hospital bed? When had she decided her pain was a price she had to keep paying? A memory tugged at her. Years ago, she sat in a small office with her mentor, Grace Turner. Grace had been there long before Mark's success, long before the firm took Anna seriously. Grace had clasped her hands and said, "If you ever feel trapped, build a bigger door. Never shrink yourself to fit someone else's limits." Anna had loved that line. She thought it was about career ceilings, stubborn bosses, difficult clients. She hadn't realized she would one day need it to escape her own marriage. Back in the present, she inhaled slowly. The part of her that wanted to cry and scream was still there. But something else had started to form over it. A quiet determination. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady. She reached for her laptop and opened her calendar. At the top of the screen, a reminder glowed in bold letters. Final briefing. $60 billion acquisition. Tomorrow, 6:10 a.m. For a few seconds, she stared at it. The weight of everything she built pressed against the fresh bruise of being abandoned. While Mark claimed she had changed, she had been holding two worlds together, their home and a deal big enough to shift entire markets. If he wanted to walk away, she wouldn't stop him, but he wasn't walking away clean. Anna began sorting the papers on the table into neat piles: email logs, travel receipts, payment records, GPS data from shared cloud accounts, credit card statements linked to hotel stays, room 804 repeating like a warning, perfume purchases listed under miscellaneous gifts. She wasn't guessing anymore. She was building a case. Her phone buzzed, slicing through the silence. Attorney Daniel Reeves. Daniel was in his early 50s, calm, sharp, the same lawyer who had helped them buy their house years before. He had always spoken to Anna like she was the rational one in the room. She answered. "Daniel?" "Anna," he said, voice warm but serious. "You sounded urgent earlier. Are you safe?" She glanced at Liam, then at the documents. "I'm safe," she said. "I'm just done. Tell me what happened." So she did. The ignored calls, the mistress, the hotel card, the hospital night. Mark walking out that morning with a suitcase instead of staying with his son. She didn't cry through the story. She didn't raise her voice. She laid it out the way she would present a negotiation, fact by fact, without hiding the cost. When she finished, there was a pause. "Anna," Daniel finally said, "you timed this perfectly." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "The evidence you've collected," he replied. "The financial logs, the hotel records, the messages, plus what our forensic accountant has already traced from his accounts. It all aligns. This is strong, legally strong." She pictured the quiet, sharp-eyed accountant she had met 2 weeks earlier in Daniel's office. She had already suspected then that Mark was funneling more than just personal money into his lifestyle. "I'm not doing this for revenge," Anna said. "I'm doing it for Liam and for myself." "As you should," Daniel said firmly. You supported him for years. You deserve legal protection, and your son deserves stability. What's the next step? Papers rustled on his end. Everything is prepared. The petition, the financial complaint, the custody request. I just need your signature tomorrow. Tomorrow, she repeated, glancing at the 6 a.m. reminder on her calendar. Yes, Daniel said. And Anna, are you ready for what comes next in the business world? She blinked. In the business world? You haven't checked today's financial news, have you? He asked. No. I've been at the hospital. There's a major deal about to hit every headline, Daniel said, and your name will be right at the center. A shiver ran through her. What deal? She whispered, even though she already knew. You'll see in the morning, he said gently. Get some rest if you can. The call ended. Anna stared at Liam sleeping peacefully, then at the mountain of evidence on the table. She didn't know it yet, but the $60 billion contract she had poured her heart and brain into was about to collide with her broken marriage. And everything Mark thought he controlled was about to flip. Before she could close her laptop, a new email notification appeared. From the investor team, subject line in bold, urgent. Anna, we need to confirm your leadership position before dawn. The meeting room buzzed the moment Anna stepped inside. Camera shutters snapped in rapid bursts. Executives in dark suits whispered over open folders. Assistants rushed between chairs with tablets and translation headsets. The tension in the air felt electric, like the seconds before a market opens on the biggest day of the year. Anna walked into all of it with calm, steady steps. Inside, her heart raced, but not with fear, with power. A long table ran down the center of the room. At its head sat the investor delegation, men and women flown in overnight from 3 continents. They weren't there for show. They were there because of the numbers Anna had put in front of them. The lead delegate, Mr. Alvarez, a tall man with silver hair and measured eyes, stood when he saw her. Ms. Morgan, he said warmly, extending his hand, the woman of the hour. Anna shook his hand. Thank you for trusting the process, she said. We trusted the numbers, he replied with a small smile, and the person behind them. His words landed hard. Her proposal, her research, her late nights, the same work Mark had dismissed as your little project. An assistant guided her to her seat. As soon as she sat, the room's noise softened into focused attention. Her mind flicked backward in quick flashes. Anna at the dining table at 2 a.m., laptop open, studying market models while Liam slept against her shoulder. Anna muting herself during a video call with foreign investors so she could settle Liam's cough, then switching back on as if nothing happened. Anna listening to Mark laugh off her ambitions. Anna, you're overthinking it. Just stick to the small deals. Leave the big ones to people who can handle pressure. Anna, finally accepting the firm's offer to lead this acquisition, promising herself and Liam, Mommy will make something better for us, I swear. The lead executive tapped the microphone. Let's begin. Silence settled. Anna took a breath, opened her laptop, and started. She walked through the proposal, phase by phase. Her voice was clear and steady. She explained risk scenarios, integration strategies, cultural factors between the merging entities. She projected cash flows and addressed regulatory concerns before anyone could raise them. Every question thrown at her, she answered. Every doubt she met with data. For once, her intelligence wasn't invisible. It was the center of the room. Her mentor's voice echoed faintly in her mind. If you ever feel trapped, build a bigger door. Today, she hadn't just built a door. She had built the whole room. After 2 hours of negotiations and clarifications, the final contract folder slid across the table toward her. The document represented months of work and years of quiet preparation. Mr. Alvarez lifted a pen. Ms. Morgan, if you're ready, your signature will finalize the acquisition. The market is waiting. Anna hesitated for a single breath. Not because she doubted herself, but because she understood the moment. This signature would not just change her career, it would change the balance of power in her life. She thought of Liam, of hospital nights, of Mark walking out, of sitting at home collecting proof while building billion-dollar models. Then she signed. The pen moved smoothly across the last page. The room erupted, cameras flashed, executives clapped, reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Anna Morgan had just closed a $60 billion acquisition deal, the largest in her firm's history, Microphones pushed toward her. Miss Morgan, what does this mean for your company's position globally? How did you manage to secure terms this favorable? Is it true you insisted on a child health fund as part of the CSR clause? She answered calmly, one question at a time, never overselling, never shrinking. Then a reporter with bright red glasses leaned in. Ms. Morgan, she asked, does your husband know you're the one behind the deal everyone is talking about? The room quieted for a beat. Anna looked straight into the circle of cameras. Her eyes were calm, her posture unshaken. She let a small, almost secretive smile touch her lips. He will, she said. The cameras went wild. Her composed expression froze in every shot that would flood the internet in minutes. Anna stood taller than she ever had, not because the world finally saw her, but because she finally saw herself clearly. Somewhere in another part of the city, Mark still thought he was in control, but the world was already learning the truth. As the press kept shouting questions and executives moved in to congratulate her, Anna's mind drifted ahead. This wasn't the end of the story, it was the opening move. Outside, as she stepped through the building's glass doors, her phone buzzed. Mark was calling, unaware of what had just happened. At the same time, another call came in. Call waiting flashed on the screen from an unknown number linked to room 804. The war for her future was about to begin. Mark slammed through the double doors of the boardroom so hard they bounced off the walls. Executives jerked in their seats. Assistants scrambled to the edges of the room. Conversations died mid-sentence. His eyes shot straight to the large digital leadership screen at the far end. The same screen that always displayed his name at the top. But today, the bold letters that used to read, Mark Morgan, CEO, were gone. In their place, in cold corporate blue, leadership status, under review, board meeting, emergency session. Mark's face lost color. What is this? He demanded, marching toward the table. No one rushed to answer. The CFO, Harold West, a cautious man in his 60s, cleared his throat. Mark, maybe you should sit. I'm not sitting, Mark snapped. Someone explain. Harold exchanged looks with the other board members. Finally pointing, he slid a thick envelope across the polished table. Mark grabbed it. His name was on the front. Mark Morgan. He tore it open. Inside was a formal letter, signed by Anna's lawyer, referencing petition for divorce grounds, infidelity, abandonment, misuse of marital and corporate assets. Attached were copies, invoices, hotel receipts, credit card statements, bank transfers, photos from room 804, screenshots of messages he thought he had deleted. His stomach lurched. How did she get all this? He whispered. Harold leaned back. She hired a forensic accountant weeks ago, he said. Your personal and company spending started to overlap. Mark's mind flashed back. Anna sitting across from a quiet, sharp-eyed accountant. Stacks of files on the desk. Her voice low but unwavering. I need every financial trail connected to my husband's accounts. Personal and business, no mistakes. The accountant nodding. Mrs. Morgan, if it's there, we'll find it. Weeks of quiet digging, late-night spreadsheets and cross-checks, all while Mark had assumed she was just stressed. Back in the boardroom, Mark slammed the envelope onto the table. This is personal. You can't use this here. Harold sighed. It became our problem when corporate funds showed up in your personal expenses. What funds? Mark demanded. Another board member slid forward a separate folder. Gifts purchased on company cards. Luxury travel listed as executive strategy retreats that match your stays in room 804. Wine and jewelry classified as client entertainment with no clients present. Mark's voice cracked. Those were relationship building. You know how this game works. Not with your mistress, the board member said plainly. Mark's mouth snapped shut. Silence wrapped around the room like a verdict. We lost 3 major investors this morning, Harold said. Mark's head jerked up. What? They pulled out, Harold continued. After Ms. Morgan's legal team filed a formal complaint and the article about her $60 billion deal went public, they questioned our internal controls. They don't want to be associated with a firm whose CEO mixes personal misconduct with corporate funds. Mark staggered back, feeling the floor tilt. The acquisition, he said desperately. We still have the acquisition, right? The market will calm down once. Anna Morgan closed that deal, Harold said quietly. Mark blinked. She? What? She was the lead negotiator, another board member said. The global headlines this morning, they're about her, not you. Anna, quiet, steady Anna, the wife he had brushed aside as too emotional, the woman he called overwhelmed and dramatic, the mastermind behind the biggest victory their industry had seen in years. What happens now? He asked, voice suddenly small. Harold folded his hands. Mark, the board voted this morning. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending investigation. We've appointed an interim leader until this is resolved. Suspended. He, the founder, the man who once believed he could never be replaced. He felt his throat tighten. He reached for his phone, almost on instinct. He dialed Sasha, the mistress. Voicemail. He texted her, no reply. He tried again. Finally, one message appeared. Mark, I can't be involved in this. I need stability. This is too messy. Then seconds later, don't contact me again. She was gone. Just like that. His company, his investors, his image, his mistress, all slipping through his fingers. I need to talk to Anna, he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. Harold shook his head slightly. She has nothing left to discuss with you, Mark. Not here. But Mark was already walking out of the boardroom, ignoring the whispers behind him. He stepped into the hallway and dialed her number. Ring, ring, ring. Across town in her firm's office, Anna's phone lit up on her desk. She glanced at the screen. Mark Morgan. Her expression didn't change. The phone rang again. She watched it quietly, then pressed decline. Back in the hallway, Mark froze, staring at his phone. Rejected. Shut out. Powerless. For the first time in his life, he understood what it felt like to be on the wrong side of a decision he couldn't influence. Anna's phone buzzed again seconds later, this time from Daniel, her lawyer. Anna, everything is ready. Are you prepared for the hearing? The courtroom door opened with a heavy push, and every head turned. Anna Morgan walked in. She didn't hurry. She didn't shrink. She didn't look at the man across the room. She walked with quiet fire, the kind that made people straighten in their seats without knowing why. At the defendant's table, Mark sat waiting. He looked nothing like the polished billionaire who once glided through charity galas. His suit was wrinkled, his hair slightly out of place, his eyes ringed with dark circles. The pages in front of him shook in his unsteady hands. He looked at Anna with desperate eyes. She didn't look back. The judge entered, banged the gavel once, and said, "We are here today to address the divorce petition filed by Miss Anna Morgan against Mr. Mark Morgan. Both parties, please rise." Anna rose calmly. Mark rose shakily. Tension pressed against everyone's chest. The judge glanced at the files. Ms. Morgan, your representation has presented substantial evidence of infidelity, abandonment during a medical emergency, and misuse of marital and corporate assets. Before we begin, do you wish to add anything? For a moment, time folded. In Anna's mind, memories flickered. Mark holding her hand at their small wedding, smiling as he promised, "I'll protect this family always." Mark pacing their first apartment, excited about his first investor, telling her he needed her more than her promotion. Mark holding newborn Liam, tears in his eyes, whispering, "I'll never abandon you." Then the later memories, the lipstick on his collar, the unanswered calls, the photo from room 804, the night Liam collapsed, the morning he stood at the foot of their son's hospital bed and said, "You're draining me, Anna," before walking out. All of it settled into one truth. She had already said everything that mattered. Her voice was calm when she answered, "No, Your Honor. Everything that needed to be shown has already been shown." The judge nodded. "Very well." Mark's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client wishes to make a brief statement." Mark swallowed, then faced Anna. "I made mistakes," he began. "I know I did. But Anna, you know me. You know I was under pressure. The business, the investors, everything. I lost myself. I thought she cared about me. I see now that I was wrong." His voice shook. He took a breath. "Anna, if you give me one more chance..." She didn't move. "Don't do this to us," he whispered. The courtroom went quiet. Every eye shifted to Anna. Would she soften? Would she look back at the man she had once loved? Anna lifted her chin slightly. "There is no us left, Mark," she said softly. "You did this to yourself." He closed his eyes as if the words were a final blow. The judge reviewed the documents one last time, then spoke with clear authority. Given the evidence of repeated infidelity and emotional abandonment, and given the documented incident of failing to respond during the minor child's medical emergency, this court grants Ms. Morgan full physical and legal custody of the minor child, Liam Morgan. Given the financial misconduct, including misuse of marital and corporate assets for personal relationships, this court grants Ms. Morgan a majority share of the marital assets and protection from any liability related to Mr. Morgan's pending corporate investigation. The divorce is finalized, effective immediately. The gavel fell with a single echoing crack. It was over. Anna exhaled. Not in triumph, not in rage, in release. The storm she had survived no longer had legal chains around her. The weight she had carried for years fell away. She gathered her documents and walked out of the courtroom. The sunlight outside felt different, warmer, clearer, like the world had opened a new path and was waiting to see what she would do with it. On the courthouse steps, her phone buzzed. A news notification popped up. $60 billion deal confirmed. Lead negotiator Anna Morgan named rising industry game changer. Anna smiled softly. Not a gloating smile, a free one. She lifted her face toward the sky. "Liam," she whispered, "everything I do now is for us." Behind her, Mark stepped out of the courthouse alone. No cameras, no board, no mistress. Just a man staring at the back of the woman he had underestimated. He watched her walk away, straight-backed, calm, unstoppable. "What have I done?" he murmured, voice barely audible. But Anna never turned around. She didn't need to. She had already risen. Daniel, her lawyer, joined her at the bottom of the steps. "Anna," he said quietly, "the board from your firm wants to meet next week. They're considering you for a leadership position after the deal you closed." Her eyes widened slightly. A new journey was already forming on the horizon.